Hello, my friends. Let's go ahead and put together this answer key. Sarah is attempting to swim across a river that is 400 meters wide. Okay, so we have a 400-meter wide river. I made it in blue because water is blue. She accomplishes the task, but winds up 100 meters downriver. Okay, I don't know what downriver means, but I'm going to assume that means down this way. So 100 meters. How far did she swim? So we're looking for this distance. Now, this is a good type of question in terms of if you had this question in class or on a quiz and you were like, I'm not quite understanding what's going on here. Ask us. We can talk to you about kind of exactly what's going on here because there's definitely some assumptions we're making that you may not understand. And that's okay if you don't understand, you just need to ask. So we need to find this distance. So we've got leg, and hypotenuse. So we have to set it up as leg squared plus leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So if I do 400 squared plus 100 squared, I get 170,000. It's a big number, but we have calculators, so it's okay. And then I need to unsquare that number. So I need to do the square root of 170,000. I'm doing that on my calculator, because shockingly I don't know that in my head. And so I get 412. I'm going to just call it 412. I get 0.31056, whatever. But I'm going to say 412. So we're going to say she swam 412 meters. All right, now this next one. Given two side lengths of 10 and 22. Choose a side length to go with the two above and determine whether the triangle, so we're forming a triangle, there might need to be some more detail there. Determine whether the triangle is right, acute, or obtuse. So pick any number I want. I'm going to pick 16. So if I pick 16, I'm going to have to say 22 squared, and then put 10 squared plus 16 squared. Because we're thinking this as c squared, a squared plus b squared. Whatever we put in here, whether that be a greater than symbol, a less than symbol, or an equal to symbol, that will tell us what kind of triangle we're dealing with. So if I go ahead and do 10 squared plus 16 squared, that's going to be 356. And then if I do 22 squared, I think that's 484, is that right? 484. So 484 is bigger, so that would be obtuse. So that is an obtuse triangle. And then now choose a different side length to go with the original, so that forms a different triangle. So I want not an obtuse triangle. I'm going to aim for an acute triangle. So here's what I'm going to do. I know for an acute triangle, I need this to be true. So 22 squared is 484. 10 squared is 100. So I need this to be bigger than 384. Well, 20 squared is 400. So that's 484 is less than 100 plus 400. So that is now an acute triangle. So if this says that statement, that means we have an acute triangle. If this says this statement, that means we have a right triangle. If this says this statement, that means we have an obtuse triangle. Make sure you have that in your notes. I would write it kind of on my review here so that I know what's going on, so I can reference that while I'm taking my quiz if I were you. Find the length of the missing side. Write your answer in simplest radical form. I actually deleted this from your review because we haven't spent much time talking about it. I'm going to do it, but it is not something you're going to have to do on your quiz. When you're setting this up, this is the Pythagorean theorem, make sure you do leg, hypotenuse. And if you need to write leg, and hypotenuse to make sure you know what's going on, that is fine. So leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. 9 squared is 81, x squared. 13 squared is 169. 169 minus 81 is going to be minus 81. That's going to be an 8 and then an 8. So that's going to be 88. So x is going to be the square root of 88. If you stop there on your quiz, that is okay. I'm going to go ahead and take a 4 out of that. So I'm going to say 88 is 4 times 22. Square root of 4 is 2. 22 is made up of 2 and 11, so there's no more perfect squares there. So that would be the simplest radical form version of that. If you stopped here on your quiz, that would be A-okay. Last one on this section says, state if the triangle is acute, obtuse, or right. So it looks like a right triangle. Like they built it so to try to trick us. It looks like a right triangle. Don't assume. So that is the biggest side. If you don't know that, square each of these. That's 225. That's 100. So that's the biggest side. So 15 squared, and then we're going to have 10 squared, and the square root of 161 squared. 15 squared, as I said, is 225. 10 squared is 100. 161 square root of 161 squared is 161. So right side is going to be 261. So the right side is bigger. That means the c squared is smaller. So that means we're going to have an acute triangle. Make sure you have that in your notes, my friends. Oh, find the trigonometric ratio. So it would be helpful. Actually, we've been writing it this way, haven't we? So, ka, to, It would be helpful to write that down. In this one, I need ka. It's like a birdie. We're dealing with x. That's the angle we're dealing with. I highly, highly, highly recommend labeling the sides. This is the hypotenuse. That is the opposite. This is the adjacent. I don't care about the opposite. I want the adjacent over the hypotenuse. The adjacent is 9. The hypotenuse is 41. I am done with that problem because all we're asked to do is write a ratio. That just means a fraction. So just write that ratio and you are done. For this one, we have this angle. This is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. The opposite is here and the adjacent is here. So we don't know the opposite, so we're dealing with adjacent and hypotenuse. So that's the cosine. Into the cosine you need to put the angle, which is 29. And then it's adjacent over hypotenuse. Don't touch your calculator yet, because what you want to do is you want to solve for x. So let's go ahead and multiply both sides by x. So you have x times the cosine of 29. Note that I said times the cosine of 29 equals 17. In order to untimes or unmultiply, you must divide. So you must do 17 divided by the cosine of 29. So I don't know that in my head. I'm going to do 17 divided by the cosine of 29. I'm using the Desmos graphing calculator, but you can use scientific calculator, but you can use your own. I got 19.4 for my side length. Make sure you can check that on your calculator and you're getting the right answer. If you're not getting the right answer, make sure you touch base with us. You might be in the wrong mode or you might be putting it incorrectly into your calculator. Last two. Let's see. Find the measure of the indicated angle. So I still need so, ka, to. This is my angle. This is the hypotenuse. That is the opposite. This is the adjacent. I do not have the hypotenuse, so both those are out. So I must be dealing with the tangent. Into the tangent, you must put the angle. The angle in this case, I don't know what it is, so I put the question mark. And it's OA, opposite over adjacent, so 25 over 41. This is the part where we do a little hand waving because we don't know the mathematics behind it necessarily. So we do the inverse tangent. You guys can think of it as that tangent -1 thing of the 25 over 41, and that is what you put in your calculator. So I do that, 25 over 41, and I got 31.4 if I'm rounding. So 31.4 degrees. If you wanted to double check, you could do the tangent of 31.4. I got 0.6104 for the tangent of 31.4. And then I could do 25 divided by 41, which is 0.6098. Those are basically the same number. It's just rounding because I stopped at the 4 there. And so we're in good shape, and we know what we're doing. Boom, I just erased the stuff on the left to give me room because I need special right triangles for this problem on the right. So how we build the special right triangles, I'm just going to build them how they're oriented here, if we have 45, 45, 90, we wrote it as smiley face, smiley face, smiley face, root 2. So you just need to match things up. This is across from the 45, so that's the smiley face. So smiley face is 2 root 2. Y is equal to smiley face, so y is 2 root 2. Smiley face root 2, smiley face root 2, is going to be 2 root 2 times another root 2. Because this first root 2, 2 root 2, that is the smiley face. And then you have this extra root 2. Simplify that. So we have root 2 times root 2, which is the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So that means that x here is 4. You could use the Pythagorean theorem to verify your thinking on that if you would like. And then the last one here, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I'm changing the orientation to match what I'm looking at. We wrote it in class as smiley face, 2 smiley face, and smiley face root 3. We're given the 7. That is the 2 smiley face. So 2 smiley face is 7. That means 1 smiley face is 7 over 2. You could write it as 3.5 if you want, but that is what n is. And then smiley face root 3 is going to be 7 halves, root 3. And so m is 7 halves root 3. And we did it. Ask questions if you've got them, my friends. Also be sure to use your review as an effective study tool.